How do I know if I'm stuck? Are you your biggest ally? Is your inner chatter a friend or is it a battleground? Information becomes transformation when you do. The science and the self-help often are very, you can get unstuck and stay unstuck. I think alignment is the science of generational trauma is still, if you're not moving your body, you're gonna feel depressed and anxious or both. A lot of the things that would move the needle in so many good directions, we brush off. Micro yes is the smallest thing you can do to get something done, and that will always be better than waiting for motivation. Here are the 3 things you can do.
On this week's episode of the Chris Senise Podcast, we've got the incredible and talented Britt Frank, a licensed psychotherapist, trauma specialist, keynote speaker, and high performance coach. She's the author of The Science of Stuck, along with its workbook, and Align Your Mind, which are considered must-reads by Forbes, NPR, SHRM, New York Magazine, and Esquire. Britt's been helping individuals, teams, and entire organizations break free from anxiety, burnout, and self-sabotage to unlock the kind of momentum that sticks. Britt brings a mix of energy, empathy, and expertise that's impossible to ignore. This conversation is all about breaking patterns, building confidence, and finding your next gear. So buckle up, because Britt Frank is here to help you get unstuck and be unstoppable. Take a listen. Thanks for your interest in sticking around to watch or listen to my podcast, dedicated to providing tools and resources to help you claim and live your best life. If you're loving these conversations, make sure you hit that bell to subscribe or follow and never miss an episode of the Chris Senise Podcast. Don't forget to tap the like and share it with someone who needs a little inspiration today. Let's grow this community of curious, driven minds together.
You're an author.
Yes.
And you've got a fantastic story.
Thank you.
And I just kind of want to start with, you've got 2 books out already.
3.
3.
I have 3. It's like 2 and 3/4. It's like 2 books and a workbook, but the workbook was harder to write than the book. So I just, there's 3 published books out there.
So tell me, I mean, I can figure out what a workbook is, but how are they different and why was it harder?
Oh, that's it. No one's asked me that. And I really like to rant and rave about how hard it is to write a work. So the workbook is called the Getting Unstuck Workbook, and it's sort of like the companion to my first book, The Science of Stuck, but you don't have to read that book to do so the workbook is all exercises, no fluff. It's not like when you're on a blog doing a recipe where you have to read. And then in, 1847, my family planted wildflowers, and it's like, how much butter? How much sugar? I don't care about the story. Right. So the workbook is there's no case studies, there's no stories. It's like, if dating is your issue, do this. And if anxiety is your issue, here are your exercises. And if not knowing how to human is your issue, do these. And I'm really proud of it because I wrote it like choose your own adventure style, because I don't like the types of exercises where you have to quiet your day and spend an hour journaling. Like, I won't do that. So I created the workbook. So whatever your style is, if you're a journaler, here's your stuff. If you're a thinker, here's your stuff. If you're I don't want to think or feel, I just want to do, here's your stuff. And so it was really hard to write for all 4 different learning or however many learning styles that I wrote for. And writing exercises just isn't as easy as writing long flowy sentences and stories and things. So, but it's, it's got good stuff and good meaty stuff, and I don't think I'll do another one.
Well, let's get to that real quickly, because was that based on a combination of exercises that worked for you, or that you learned, or that you tried and were effective versus the ones you felt weren't effective but realized it might be effective for someone else?
Yeah, it's like 12 years of being a therapist and 45 years of being a human. It's like, let me just wade through all the nonsense stuff. So here's the stuff I think is the best stuff for the things. And that way you don't have to wade through all the recipes trying to find one that works.
There you go. Yeah, because I could see how it's a little difficult to set aside some time and maybe tell someone that the only way to grow or expand is by setting aside an hour a day and clear your mind when you're an overthinker or
Yeah.
when you're, like you've mentioned a lot, rock bottom.
Yeah.
So that's actually great because I don't think I've ever heard of a workbook that does that.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a quiz at the beginning, and it's like, what's your self-help style? And then based on that, you get like a little icon, and then you can literally just flip through the book. Like, let's say you're a cloud icon thinker. Like, flip through the book, skip everything that doesn't have a cloud next to it, because none of that stuff is for you. Or if you're like a feeler, journaler, like I want to do, then that's a heart. Flip through the book, skip anything that doesn't have a heart next to it. So you can, I made it so you can very quickly get to what you need without the fluff. I do not like, I get angry when I have to wade through fluff to get information that I want. So.
Yeah. I love to fast forward through stuff that doesn't
Yes.
apply to me either. But so
Yeah, that was my second book.
got it. So Align Your Mind is would you call it a sequel or something completely different?
I talked a little bit about the topic of Align Your Mind is about parts work. Just this idea that we all have lots of voices inside our head, and how do we help all our multiple personalities get along with each other? Yeah. I mentioned it in my first book, but this is one of my favorite topics to work with because I've never seen anything work as fast to get people moving forward as quickly as what's called parts work. Part of me feels this way, part of me feels that way. So I mentioned it in Science of Stuck. So it's not a sequel. It's more of I took chapter 4 of my first book and said, I'm going to turn this into an entire book all by itself. And so that's what Align Your Mind is.
So the Science of Stuck, how long did that take you to write?
It took longer to sell it than to write it, but it was 5 years of you suck and people telling you no, and you could not write a book, and this is dumb, and blah, or just flat out ghosting me. And then, so I had been working with the content and researching it for years. Right. From the day I got my book deal to the day I submitted my manuscript was 6 months.
Gotcha. And I want to take a step back to your reference to being human.
Now.
Because your studies and your profession, it wasn't something that came to you immediately, correct? It was something that after many years of being stuck or, being human, you decided that was the path for you. Can we jump into that real quick?
Yeah, I think, a lot of people get into the people professions. Yes. Because they're wonderful, good people who want to help. Mm-hmm. I was not a wonderful, good person, and I had no interest in helping. It was more like, I need to figure out me. And this was way before I became a therapist. I worked all kinds of rando different corporate jobs, waitressing jobs, whatever. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to be an adult. And that wasn't like the job thing. I just didn't I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I just moved from city to city to city, and I picked up jobs here and jobs there. It was through my own recovery process that I fell in love with the work. And so it's not like I'm a sociopath who doesn't like to help, but that's not the driver. The primary reason that I practice psychotherapy is because I love the crafts and the science of psychotherapy, and I'm obnoxious and I just want to talk about it all day. And the fact that it's helpful is a bonus. That's great. But yeah, I got into the work because I love the work.
I mean, that's, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So my background is finance, and then I'm also a musician, but this fascinates me to be at this stage of my life. I've been in finance for over 25 years, been very successful at it, but there's always been kind of like a little nudge at human nature and what drives us, how we react, how we act in life. And it's so separate from finance, I think. But then I'm also a musician, so using both parts of the brain, and that's where I express and I feel. So it's interesting, even for me at this stage of my life, to gravitate towards a podcast that's about understanding people and helping us live our life's purpose, whatever that is, or purposes, because we could have many. But, I think that's great. How long did it take you? I know you hit rock bottom, and we'll get into that, but how long after rock bottom did you say, I gotta figure this out. And figuring this out was not just your own psychotherapy, but literally saying, I'm going to study this to like deeply understand it.
I wish I had like here's my rock bottom and here's how long it took me to make my life really good. And it was a straight line, but like it wasn't like that. Like that's a great story. And I wish I had that story so I could write a memoir and like be like, this is the turning point and it was up from here. I mean, I guess everyone has that, but it was more like, and I will never write a memoir, sidebar. That's a total lie. I have no desire to write a memoir. Kudos to people who do. So like it was rock bottom and then keep digging and then climb out and walk and then go back to the old rock bottom and then move forward and find a new rock bottom.
Right.
And I was learning about psychotherapy and doing stuff at the same time. So like I would be high on drugs, but reading self-help books. Like I wasn't always doing that. Sometimes I was doing very, very not healthy, suboptimal, dangerous things. But it wasn't like I'm going to be a hot mess and now I'm not. It's more like a weaving together of all of these threads that it was real. And I think a lot of people who have made big changes in their lives would agree. It's not like, oh, I like, this then that. It was more like I woke up one day and life wasn't miserable it was literally like, oh wow, life doesn't suck every day. This is weird. Like, this is new. And then another day I looked around and I was like, oh wow, like I'm sleeping and feeding myself. Okay. And another day, and little by little, it's still kind of, I look around and I'm like, oh wow, like I'm on a podcast today talking to Chris. That's interesting. Yeah. And so non-linear. And I think a lot of people give up when they get on the spiral, but like it's supposed to be a hot mess. And if you have a linear story, that's awesome, but cool. That's not everybody.
I would venture to say it's almost nobody.
I don't know anyone who has a purely linear story because there's so many different kinds of rock bottoms. There's relational rock bottoms that happen while your career is going well. There are career rock bottoms that happen while you're happy and in love. And there's personal finance rock bottoms while everything else looks great. Like it's so hard to say there is a rock bottom where everything is all bad all at the same time. And I was fortunate that I never had a rock bottom where I wasn't functional. And I don't think that's true for a lot of people. And I had privilege and access to resources. So when I was ready, I was able to get help. And I think it's important to name that because it's really easy to sit here and be like, I changed my life and you can change yours. It's like, yeah, but relative safety, environmental supports, access to basic needs, those things matter too.
Agreed. Yeah. And how, when did you, at what point, and I don't mean in time, I mean like perhaps in your studies, did you realize that the difference between self-help and science, right? Like, did you have an aha moment where you're like, I didn't realize that, and that's the direction I want to go in?
So it was kind of intuitive for a while. Like I didn't know any of the neuroscience research or anything. I was just doing stuff and finding books that spoke to me. And it was really cool to go to school and learn, oh wait, no, like manifesting has neuroscience behind it. Manifestation is just confirmation bias channeled in a positive direction to use for your good. And so I shouldn't say just, like, yes, universe and magic and all of that. Yes. And the science and the self-help often are very in agreement with each other. That's not always the case. But it's really fascinating to discover that all these weird things that I had done to help myself had a basis in neuroscience. And that was very like, oh, that's cool. Okay, sweet. I was going to do them anyway because I don't think the science quite catches up to humans' ability to maneuver and pivot. So just because there's no science to back up something doesn't mean it's not working for you.
Right. Yeah.
I should be careful with a disclaimer here, though, especially in our current climate. I'm not talking about medicine. I'm not talking about biology. I'm not talking about hard data and hard sciences. I'm talking psychological science where there is some subjectivity. I'm not even going to get into science versus non-science in like those other realms because that's tricky.
Yeah. And I would say, though, even on that point, that the exercises to consider or to try to manifest things, I feel like you lose nothing by trying that.
Right. Yes. Is it hurting you? Is it like I was using smells to calm myself down long before I understood why the autonomic nervous system downregulates in response to certain
Yeah.
odors. But like I still knew smelling lavender made me calm down. I didn't know the science behind it, but it didn't matter. I wasn't hurting anyone, including myself, and I wasn't breaking any laws, and it worked. So I'm a big, if the science matches what your self-helpy stuff is, cool. But if it's working, it's working.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Is there a difference between unstuck and alignment, right? Because in a way, do you think there's like a natural progression to that? Or, right, like first of all, let's take a step back. Are you ever fully unstuck?
Yeah, I do think you can get fully unstuck.
Okay.
I do think alignment is a daily practice. It's not like I'm aligned and here I am, but I'm not like feet in the cement feeling like the world is on top of me and there are no choices and I have no options and there's nowhere for me to go. And again, privilege, access, yes, assuming we've solved for that. I do think that there's a degree to which you can be unstuck and feel like I have some agency in my life and I have the ability to influence myself in a direction. So that's a great question. Yeah, I do think you can get unstuck and stay unstuck. I think alignment is a constant maneuvering and shifting and course correcting and checking and trying things and making a mess and cleaning it up and trying it again. But yeah, unstuck and alignment are related but not the same.
Gotcha. So let's talk about your work in psychotherapy. How familiar are client, I don't want to call them store experiences, to your own personal, like how relatable is that for you? I can't speak for other psychotherapists, but having been in a situation that led you down the path of studying this, working in it, how do you believe that just because you've been there, you can understand your clients? It's so much more relatable. How does that work out?
So that was tricky, right? Like just because I have experienced something doesn't mean I'm trained to treat it. You know, it's like I've experienced IBS, but like I'm not a GI doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. So like I've experienced it, but like you should probably go to a gastroenterologist if you have IBS. So, you know, I've experienced a torn shoulder, but I'm not going to do surgery on you. And I do think there's a degree to which, well, I went through it, therefore I can help it. Is it useful to have a reference point? Yes. Like I've been through addiction. I've been through domestic violence. I've been through assault of various kinds. I've been through childhood stuff. It's helpful to have that frame of reference. I do think the people that I work with know there's nothing that's going to shock me and there's nothing that's going to make me shame you. Like there's nothing that you've done that's so bad that either I haven't done it or, you know, seen it, or like it's a very safe place in my psychotherapeutic space because of that. But I'm equipped to treat trauma because I'm trained in trauma. So I think the experience can give me insight and empathy. But the training gives me the tools to manage it. And there's room for both. You know, sometimes I didn't need tools. Sometimes I needed someone who understood addiction to sit with me and be like, I get it. And sometimes that was the medicine. And then sometimes I needed someone to be like, here's what your nervous system is doing, and here's what we can do to work with that. So I think there's room at the table for anybody that's carrying a gift, even if you don't have training, if you have empathy, or if you have no empathy, but you have some skills, like let's all come together because we need all hands on deck to human.
Right. So judgment, kindness, no judgment with kindness, empathy. That's beautiful. I mean, that's how it should be. I guess I'm not a therapist. It
helps, but there are times where, not so much now because I'm far enough removed, but there were times where I couldn't take on a certain situation with a client because it was too close to, Brene Brown talks about sharing from scars and not from wounds. And I think practicing psychotherapy needs to come from, I can practice from scarred over tissue I cannot practice from active wounds. So when I was navigating like some really challenging family of origin stuff, I had to be careful about who I was working with, because then I can't be objective. So I was very careful to work with clients that were not activating active wounds for me. And that's why I go to therapy, and why therapists should have supervision when they start out, and all of those things that we do to keep the room as safe as possible.
Yeah. Excellent. You talk about generational trauma, right? And it's I think those wounds can be so freaking deep. Like, if I could just say that, because I think those are some of the things that can make us stuck, our belief systems. I mean, I just feel like it's pretty endless, the kinds of things that can make us stuck. How deep can those generational traumas be? Like, can they paralyze you? Can they just keep you from moving? And how can someone even recognize that that's a possibility?
It's so tricky, right? And like, the science of generational trauma is still relatively new. I say new in the context of it's not hundreds and hundreds of years of data. But you worked in finance, so money is a big one with generation. We won't even call it generational trauma. We'll just call it generational patterns or beliefs. Like, if your parents taught you rich people are evil, and their parents taught them rich people are evil, and their parents learned from their parents that rich people are evil, the chances that you are going to believe that rich people are evil, you don't need like a longitudinal study to look at that and go, okay, well, if your parents are believing that and that's a family belief, you're going to have a problem with finances. Because if you believe rich people are evil, you're going to cap yourself and you're going to struggle financially. Again, disclaimer, and these are important to me. Not all financial struggles are because of patterns and beliefs. Sometimes it's, patriarchy or capitalism run amok or whatever. But those beliefs are everything. And until we even know that it's probably good to challenge our beliefs, we're going to be on autopilot. And so your question, can they paralyze you? Absolutely. If I don't know that I have a running script that people who have money are assholes, and then I'm going to be acting from that belief and not even knowing it. So your question, how do we begin to change generational patterns of trauma or generational beliefs? Well, let's start questioning, what do I actually believe about money? I mean, all the main categories, right? It's kind of like money, sex, fitness, relationships, career, purpose, God, spirituality. What do I believe about that? What was taught to me about that? So here are the three things you can do. Ask yourself, what do I actually believe about the thing? Not what do I want to believe? What do I actually believe? What was I taught about this? What do I want to believe? And then the choosing into the new belief is going to require some action steps.
Thanks for your interest in sticking around to watch or listen to my podcast, dedicated to providing tools and resources to help you claim and live your best life. If you're loving these conversations, make sure you hit that bell to subscribe or follow and never miss an episode of the Chris Senise Podcast. Don't forget to tap the like and share it with someone who needs a little inspiration today. Let's grow this community of curious, driven minds together.
Yeah, I mean, awareness is everything.
Everything. Yeah.
It's realizing that you even have an issue, because I think our relationship with money has everything to do with how we were raised to think about money. And you might be raised as believing that anything is possible, and you can be anything you want in the world, and you can make all the amounts of money in the world that you want, and still that wasn't enough for a specific person to believe that, because I mean, I have adult children, so I always think about the point where I started to feel that I was no longer the only person influencing them in their lives, right? Where it's like you have this belief that you're going to raise your kids a specific way, and then at some point you say, oh my gosh, where did that come from? I didn't teach my kid that. I didn't raise them that way. I don't think I acted in a way that would have them believe that, until you realize, well, I'm not the only person in their lives. And so sometimes when I think about generational patterns, I wonder how much of the, or what you would perceive to be a generational pattern, how much of it really was, because your children are exposed to so many people. So,
Which is why I don't do like, let's blame mom and dad for everything.
Yeah.
Like, it's a big influence often, but like you get influenced by so many different things. And the good news is you don't have to know really where it came from. Like, ask yourself, where did I learn it? But if you're like, I have no idea, fine. If you don't know, a better question than why do I believe this is, do you want to keep believing that? It's when people say to me, how do I know if I'm stuck when we're talking about awareness? I'm like, well, are you? Like, look at fitness, finances, friendships, meaningful work, spirituality, by however you define it,
yeah.
and like body image and your relationship with food. Like, how you doing? If you're doing great, then I'm not going to sit here and tell you you should be striving for more. But it's not hard to figure out if you're stuck, if you're asking yourself, like, if I'm going to get really real,
Yeah.
am I? And am I misaligned? Alignment defined as like, do my actions match my values? Right. Do the things that if I want to believe that money can be used for good and that I deserve to like earn some kind of something that is comparable to my skill set and not under, do my actions match that?
Right.
You know? Or are you constantly people pleasing and lowballing and taking low bids and over functioning and overworking? That's misalignment. And so unstuck is just the beginning. Unstuck is like, all right, we've got you moving. Alignment is we've got you moving in a direction that matches what you want your life to look like. And I think that's really important.
I think so too. What would be the predominant question, right? Is it, do you feel stuck, or is it, are you happy in your life, and what is happy, right? Or are you satisfied in your life, right? So with like, what would be that first question for someone to ask themselves? I guess if you have a doubt, right? I
think the first question is like on a scale. Well, we can make it a scale question because people love scaling questions. 1 to 10, with 10 being like yes, 1 being no, and everything else being the spectrum.
Right.
How much do you like yourself?
Uh-huh.
Like, are you best friends with yourself? Like, would you say that you are your 100% best friend? Not all the time. We all have our moments.
Right.
Are you your biggest ally? Is your inner chatter like a friend, or is it a battleground? And do your actions match what you believe about yourself?
Yeah.
And without shaming yourself, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, my actions are misaligned. I'm a terrible person. Yeah. It's not that deep. It's like, let's just look for where you're misaligned. And then the question isn't why. I hate why questions at the beginning. And I'm a therapist telling you this. Like, I've made my whole career out of understanding why people do what they do.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I have learned why you're stuck matters less than what do you want to do right now in service of what's next. And if you really want to answer why, get unstuck first. We'll go to the why later. So I say shelve the why until you're up and running.
Yeah. Well, I want to say first that thank you, because I think those first questions on, are you your best friend? Are you your best ally? I think those are really good questions because it just keeps it very simple. And I think that you don't need to dig very deep to ask yourself those questions.
Right.
And let's get back to why, because you believe that the next thing is what and how, correct?
What and how, not at, why is useful at a point.
Right.
But when you're stuck, like when I was stuck in addiction, I knew why I was addicted. Like, it wasn't that hard. It's like A plus B plus family of origin plus patterns plus beliefs equals addiction. Fine. Right. But like, plus genetics plus whatever. But like, okay, great. I understand why I'm doing it. That's not getting me anywhere. Right. So, and because we have information available to us 24/7 from 5,000 different angles, if information was all that was needed to get aligned, we would all be good to go. Yeah. We're drowning in information, but information becomes transformation when you do stuff, not when you think stuff. So we've got to ask at the beginning, what am I willing to do? What are my choices? I may not like my choices. I may want someone else's choices. It's like, no, I want the choice of which of my islands do I which of my islands do I summer at this year? It's like, I don't have that choice, but I have these of my choices.
Right.
Which ones am I going to do? Which ones am I going to say yes to?
Right.
And how am I going to get moving? That will get you forward faster than why. Why do I feel this way? Why is this hard? Why can't I? Why did they? It's not helpful.
Right. That's a great way to put it. Because going back to all of like this, we have information from so many sources now that can at least get us thinking about something. But then I feel like there's information overload. There's a lot of conflicting information. There's a lot of misinformation. That can be very, very confusing for people. And I believe they can also attach to whatever is convenient, which I think to a certain degree can be a little dangerous for people who can be very fragile. Talk about rock bottom. I mean, I've had my moments, I have been there, and it's you talk about rock bottom and digging yourself. I mean, my reference was being in a pit, a muddy pit, because as I would try to catch ground, I would just slip down. And to me, mine was the pit. And I guess everyone's got their own, and it's not fair to compare, right? It's not fair to say this one's worse than somebody else's, but I worry sometimes about that. And I don't worry a lot, but I worry about bad information out there. I don't use negative words either, so I said bad, but that's very concerning. Do you have people that come to you with bad information that you then need to help them kind of think differently? Because you have your a situation, and then you've got to deal with that, but then now you've got all of this other information that now you've got to clear that up for somebody and say, like, well, kind of not like that.
So again, my disclaimer, my job isn't to help people. My job is to give them information and to help hear themselves think. So like, do I have to help people? Nope, don't help. That's not what I do. And that sounds so silly, but the words actually are really important to me, because if I'm the helper, that creates a power imbalance. And I'm like, no, like if you're coming to me as a client, you're the expert on you.
Yeah.
I can give you information and I can help maybe quiet some of the noise so you can hear yourself think.
Yeah.
But sometimes the information that's good doesn't work. I'll give you a really silly example. So vitamin C, right? I think you ask 100 people, 100 people are going to tell you vitamin C is awesome and it'll make you not sick, and yay orange juice, and take the supplements and do the IVs, right? Like, generally speaking, we've all agreed vitamin C, yay. Vitamin C gives me bladder infections, and vitamin C serums on my face break me out. I do not react well to vitamin C supplementation. That doesn't mean it's bad for everyone, and it doesn't mean the information is bad. It means for me, that's a weird one. And I used to be like, what's wrong with me? Vitamin C is good. And every time I take it, I get sick. It's like, my body doesn't like vitamin C. And so when I'm giving people the information that I think is the accurate information, it's always with the caveat that human bodies are weird. Bodies are so strange, and your body might do something totally different than what generally is accepted as good information. Now, all that disclaimer stuff said, and it's important to me to say that. My whole, all my public facing stuff, my corporate keynote speaking that I do, I love doing speeches because I can get to so many more people in 1 hour than one-on-one. All my social media stuff, all my books, the biggest myth, the worst information about mental health, and it's been around since the 50s when the mental health industry sort of coalesced and became a thing, is this idea that symptoms are a sign of brokenness or weakness. And anxiety is your best ally. If you didn't have anxiety, how are you going to know if you need to make a correction? Anxiety is like a smoke alarm on your brain. It's the smoke alarm's not the problem. The fire is the problem. Now people will say, yeah, but my smoke alarm is going off all the time for no reason. And well, it's never for no reason. If your smoke alarm is unless you have structural brain damage with your amygdala, fine. But I have never, I'll say this, I have never seen, and I've clocked more than 10,000 hours as a therapist and twice that as a client. I have never seen it where something is there for no reason. I may not want to know the reason. I may not remember the reason, but it's never for no reason. Symptoms are storytellers. Symptoms are messengers. They're trying to get our attention. But I wouldn't take if my check engine light came on, I'm not going to the mechanic telling him or her, my check engine light is on, and then them telling me, well, your check engine light is on, so you must have check engine light disorder. But we do that with anxiety. Hey, doc, I have anxiety. Cool, you have an anxiety disorder. That is bad information.
Yeah, I that happens a lot, actually. I'm not sure if it's just that we've gotten better at understanding symptoms and where they come from, or right. I feel like it's been more of a recent thing, but I see a lot of diagnoses and
Oof. That's like the big swing in the other direction, right? Like, oh, I have these symptoms, therefore I'm in avoidance.
Yeah.
I am disordered in this way.
Yeah.
And like labels are helpful to organize. It's like it's useful to know, like, hey, here's sort of the framework that we're with all your symptoms, you're probably over here, but diagnosis is a starting place. And I think you're right. We've now taken it as it's the end game. Now that I know my diagnosis, done. That's who I am.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's our starting. That's just diagnosis has always just been meant to be information, not like dictation of who you are and what's available to you. It's like,
yeah. And my caveat, because of course I'm just curious, right? I love this area, but my caveat is I'm not being dismissive of anything, right? I recognize that there are illnesses out there that need to be treated and stuff, but I think when it comes to mental illness, this is just what I think is that there's no magic pill, and that doesn't mean you don't take one, but I just think that visiting who you are is so much a part of your treatment. And I see that even in my own circle, that it's like, oh, this isn't working for me. And I'm like, well, are you trying to figure yourself out also? And see where, you can make your life better every day. And, going back to manifesting, right? It's not, I'm trying to think of the word that my husband uses. I forget what the word is, but kumbaya. I'm like, it's not kumbaya stuff, right? It's like going back to what we were talking about earlier. It doesn't hurt it doesn't mean you abandon your life and only do that. It means that you're intentional about where you want to be and how you want your life to be, which is going to take me to circus life. Because I guess I've heard of circus life, but you call it your circus world or your circus life? What do you call it?
Yeah, just like my word circus world, that it's my secret identity. I do just for fun. This is not Cirque du Soleil level performing. But when I was in my mid-30s, I got this wild hair that I went to an aerial show and I watched like normal people, non-Cirque du Soleil level people. It was a student show. And I was like, this is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And these are not lifelong acrobats. This is like Joe from accounting and like Sue from HR doing this stuff. And I'm like, wait, that's available? So after I saw that show, I hired a coach and I started training, and I hated it. It was so awful. It's so hard. It's so gross. It's just scary and nauseating and terrible, and you bleed and you bruise, and I love it. And like, I just kept training, and then it was, I want to get into a student company. And then it was, now I want to get into the student shows, and now I want to perform a solo. And so that's sort of become a thing. So doing aerial arts is a very happy place for a lot of my angst, because you cannot think about anything when you are hanging upside down, feet in the air, spinning. like the only thing you're thinking is don't puke, don't die. And it's great. It's such a beautiful meditation.
Yeah. How important do you think a physical life is to feeling well?
So not everyone has the same mobility. And so I do think to whatever degree a body is able to move, bodies were never meant to sit and stare at screens. Like there's this amazing Instagram account. I just found them recently and I want to give them a shout out because I really love the work they're doing. It's called Physiology First. And it's about teaching kids that they have bodies and like those bodies need to move. Like feeling fidgety because you're sitting in school being told to sit still all day is not a disorder. That's a body that is not wanting to sit still because bodies were not designed to sit still.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And it's like a lot of what we call mental health issues are a result of physiological things. Like when I hit perimenopause, yes, we're talking perimenopause in our last 10 minutes. I had no idea that perimenopausal symptoms mimicked mental illness. And it was like, thank God my doctor understood that because she could have changed my psych meds. She could have sent me to inpatient treatment because I was not okay.
Yeah.
But she prescribed me estrogen and progesterone. And guess what? That's physiological. Not every mental health symptom is solved by estrogen, but physiology is sort of the first thing we got to look at.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not moving your body, you're going to feel depressed
Yeah.
and anxious or both.
Yeah.
So I do think the movement piece, part of this wonderful world of technology where we have like phones and AI and all these cool tools,
Yeah.
we still walk around in these meat puppets that need to move or we're not going to feel okay.
Yeah.
And I'm a, I know that it's not part of this episode, but I'm a big believer in functional medicine because I think the whole body needs to be looked at, just like it doesn't matter where you are in life, how you live your life. I think therapy is important, right? Like you just need that one person who's not a part of your everyday world,
Yes.
not in your friend circle, not in your family, so that you can talk about your family if you need to. But like all of those things impact us. And I think that for an independent person is very helpful. Just like
I agree.
the whole body needs to be examined. I have a guest coming up, Alicia Reeser, on perimenopause. So I'm very excited about that. I've got her at the end of the month. But just last week, I interviewed Dr. Johnny Bowden on functional medicine. So like that's sort of like what I'm doing with the podcast is like every piece of us counts. But then going back to kids in school, like when was it good to take out recess and phys ed? Like I just feel the physical life is so important that even taking a walk. I had my doctor once who I was like, yeah, I'm trying to run and I want to run at least 2 miles a day. And my doctor's like, I mean, why? Are you trying to run a marathon? And I'm like, no, I just think it's better. He's like, walk for half an hour a day.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, no, I need to do strength training because he's like, you're going to be a bodybuilder? Just do a few things. Like, don't kill yourself overthinking you've got to be doing all of these
Yes.
things that, again, you hear out there that say, this is the best way to live your life,
Right. Up at 4 a.m. and then cold plunge and then do an hour of journaling and then run 20 miles and then make sure you only eat blood and meat and milk. And like, good Lord, it's like you said, it actually doesn't take a ton. A 20 to 30 minute walk every day is really good for your mental health, for your spiritual health, for your physical health, for your relationships. It's like, yeah, walking gets a bad rap. It's like, well, that's a waste of time. It's like, it's really not though. And a lot of the things that would move the needle in so many good directions, we brush off because they're not optimize your life for peak performance.
Yes. Yeah. And I always say, even if you walk 10 minutes a day, it's more than zero. It's more than nothing.
Correct.
Start small. I mean, I started small. I lost 30 pounds. I started small.
How'd you do it?
Very small. So I was having 3 teaspoons of sugar in my coffee 2 times a day. So I went from 3 to 2,
Nice.
1 to 0, and eventually cut out the creamer as well. And I just had, oh my God, I love Hawaiian rolls. So I'd have
I
two.
love Hawaiian rolls.
Oh, and they're so delicious, but I'd have two with dinner. So I
Yeah.
went down from 2 to 1.5 because it was hard, to 1.5 to 1, half to 0. Because if you do it that way, you don't miss it, and then slowly just cutting out the carbs until, not entirely, by the way, because I do think we need sugar and carbs. Just not.
I do. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm not okay without them.
Yeah. And then one day I had a carb fast after I had done all of that work and was like, oh, like just felt horrible. And then it clicked. I felt this way all the time before I made these small changes. It took me 18 months, but once you're there, and from there, physically, I was able to walk a block, 2 blocks, 3 blocks, a mile, just with my dogs. And so I think those small little changes, for me, caveat, for me, were very effective,
Yeah.
well, and they were good habits that I was able to keep.
I love that. And I do think that doesn't need a caveat. I have a chapter in Align Your Mind where I talk about micro yeses, which is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to cut down from 2 rolls to 1.5, literally cut. I know Hawaiian rolls don't have corners, but like cut a Hawaiian roll into 7 pieces and then toss 1.
Yeah.
A micro yes is the smallest thing you can do to get something done, and that will always be better than waiting for motivation.
Yes.
Because micro yeses you can do when you don't feel like it. You probably didn't feel like going from 2 to 1.5, but you can do 2 to 1.5. That's not asking too much of your own brain.
Yeah.
And micro yeses aren't sexy, but they work.
They really do. I mean, I do believe in small is big. Like I always say, 1% a day is like 365% in a year. Like hello, that's and I think if you look at things in if you chunk them, you make them small, they can be very effective and lasting. You know?
Agree.
But I want to go back to Ariel because
Oh yeah, I forgot where we were with that.
I'm
Yeah.
so fascinated by that, but I think that the things that interest are huge to us as well. I know for me as a musician, the few times I've paused, I've been sad. And then when I picked it up again, it was hard. So I stopped pausing because it's just kind of hard to keep. And one of those things was going from a non-digital world to the digital world. And I felt like I had a 2-year gap that I was like, what the heck happened? What? Computers are instruments? And so that for me was huge. See, that's the micro yes, right? Stick to it. I love it. I haven't read your books because we just booked you, but those are literally on my list. But how important, aside from the physical aspects of that interest, right?
Yeah.
That passion that you have for it, how important is interests that are not your family or your work, right? How important would you say that is for alignment?
I think it's non-negotiable, and not everyone needs to have a passion for a thing. And I think that derails a lot of people because like I've been obsessed with circus since I was a kid and I've always wanted to do it. And it's like, it was just one day my micro yes was just look up and see if there's a class. And then it was today you're going to sign up for the class and then you're going to drive to the place. But it doesn't have to be that you have a passion for something, but everyone needs an interest, a curiosity. It doesn't even have to be a hobby. It could be a curiosity, something that you do that's not family or work related, because otherwise you're going to start resenting both. It's like you need, like humans need to have many, it's like diversifying a portfolio in the finance world or biodiversity in the environment. If we don't have all the animals, like if we take out the bees, everything comes to a stop. Right. We have to have a diversity of investments and a diversity of plants and animals and a diversity of a human life, which means you need to have a passion is great, an interest or a hobby is good, but even if you're like, today I'm curious to go to the library and pick up a book just by closing my eyes and grabbing and seeing what I grab. Great. Today I'm going to be curious about, is there live music in my city? Like it doesn't have to be, you have to invest money to develop a skill. Agreed. I chose to. and I could, and I did, and I'm happy about it.
Yeah.
But like everyone needs to be invested in some way in something outside of work and family.
Yeah.
And okay, for people who are pushing back and saying, well, I'm fine. To that, I will say, great. You are like, that's the orange juice, vitamin C situation for you.
Yeah.
If you are one of the outliers for whom I'm good with just work and family, I'm not here to make you do anything.
Right.
But if you feel a little bit of, is this all there is? It's like stuff. Don't follow your passion. Follow your little sparks of interest.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great, because I know for me, it's made a world of difference to have that other aspect of my life that's separate from family, separate from work, because it just inspires me in other ways. And even like this podcast, this idea came to me 4 months ago.
And here we are, which is, by the way, you're killing it. You're so, I have to run, but you're so easy to talk to.
Thanks for your interest in sticking around to watch or listen to my podcast, dedicated to providing tools and resources to help you claim and live your best life. If you're loving these conversations, make sure you hit that bell to subscribe or follow and never miss an episode of the Chris Senise Podcast. Don't forget to tap the like and share it with someone who needs a little inspiration today. Let's grow this community of curious, driven minds together.